You worship at the moony altar of the werewolf's ass.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
We're here, Jamie. I'm here. You're here. It's Final Transmission. Once a week, we take a deep dive into a horror movie together. One time, every week, until the end of time. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling wholly jumped up, bald-headed Jesus Palomino.
Slipping in early there with a Boosie quote. Nice work. What movie are we talking about today, Jamie?
This week, this episode, this podcast, now we're talking about 1985's Silver Bullet, based on the story The Cycle of the Werewolf, written by old Stevie King.
Stephen King himself, the master of the macabre. You might have heard of him.
With illustrations by Bernie Wrightson, also the master of the macabre in comics.
Excellent. In a different medium. I've never heard of him. What might our listeners know him from?
Well, he did a lot of work on Swamp Thing.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, good horror comics, good vibes.
Gotta love a bit of Swampy.
Yeah, at some point in this week's social media, I'll share a couple of the illustrations from the book. So the book that this movie was based on was originally intended to be a calendar.
What?
Yeah, it was meant to be a calendar with tiny little short story vignettes written by Stephen King that complemented artwork provided by Bernie Wrightson. And they were meant to depict a werewolf attack 1 month a year in line with the cycle of the moon. But Stephen King found that he couldn't write short enough stories. Shocker. Anyone that's read a Stephen King fucking book. So it became a novella. It's about 130 pages with the illustrations. And it's great.
You love it.
I do. I've got this lovely copy of it, which is the first signet printing of it in the UK.
Yeah, no one can see that, but...
Well, it's lovely.
Why do you like it so much? Why do you enjoy... It's not part of any other collections or anything like that, is it? It's too long. Oh, it's not too long. There's entire novellas in several Stephen King short story collections, his most recent included. But why do you honk for this one?
I like Stephen King working in a specific horror monster medium, which isn't something that we get to see an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's normally, creating his own little fucking gribblies that are out there doing gribbly shit.
Mm-hmm.
When we see him doing traditional monsters, I think it's always interesting. So, I love Salem's Lot.
Yeah, that's about vampires, in case you're not familiar with Salem's Lot, listener.
Yeah. Has he done a sort of Frankenstein story?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
But yeah, when he's sort of dealing in monster tropes that we all know and love.
Cell, zombies.
Yeah, fuck Cell. I mean, I've not read Cell, but the movie sucked.
The book is a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, but fucking cell phone zombies, how subtle.
I'd go as far as to say the movie is almost exponentially better than the book.
Only because you love Lil Cusack.
I do love Cusack. I'll watch anything with John Cusack in it. Cusack and King, match made in heaven. I didn't despise that film. It sucked in every single way that you would imagine it would. But I didn't hate it. It's funny, isn't it? Steve, people obviously dedicate their lives to talking about Stephen King, and we're just going to blast in here and hammer Silver Bullet and get the fuck out. But there's an enormous amount of grist for the Tarker's Mill when you get into King's catalog, because it's so expansive, and as soon as you start digging into one seam, everything's interconnected, and you end up wandering off into a labyrinth. So Silver Bullet is interesting in that regard because yes, it ties in with some broader lore in terms of the location and potentially some characters, but for the most part, it's pretty standalone, right?
Yeah, I think in the film specifically, it's very standalone.
Totally, yeah.
Obviously, we'll get a bit more into the film. So this was my first watch, Sam.
Excellent. What a weird one. Your first watch of a film on the podcast. What the fuck?
It's worth saying that it's October. It's Halloween month. And so I wanted to pick a month of movies that take place on or around Halloween. And this does by one piece of dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, well done you, having not seen this before, but knowing that one piece of dialogue existed that qualified it for your very narrow criteria of being a Halloween movie.
Yeah. I watched this in the way that that God, Lemmy, intended, which was on a VHS.
I thought you were going to say naked.
Well, I was partially nude.
Good. Okay.
Nude from the knees down.
From the knees down. Yep. Brilliant.
And I did struggle with it on VHS, so I had to watch it again in high def afterwards, just
Brutal.
to make sure.
Why did you struggle with it on VHS?
Just because it was. My VHS at this point is 40 years old.
Yeah.
So
are you.
Well, exactly. I would struggle to watch me for 90 minutes. So
yeah. Think of our poor fucking listeners.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to see me, especially not from the knees down. Unless they're at Manchester Punk Festival, in which case they'll only see me from the knees down. That's not right.
Anyway, what was it? Just like haggard quality?
Yeah, it was really bad.
Oh, really bad. Wow.
Really rough. And there was a bunch of things that I missed. Like, let's say there's a scene with some mist, and I found it very difficult to see what was going on there.
Interesting.
So I
supposed to find it difficult to see what's happening in the mist.
Yeah. So I went back and I watched, I think it's a Shout Factory release of it.
Yeah.
And then I got everything. I think, I didn't miss too much. It was just that, I wanted to see, like we say, this is a werewolf movie. No spoilers there. It's called Silver Bullet.
It's not about fucking John Denver or Coors beer. If you thought it was, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. Use a little bit of lateral thinking there, guys. But I wanted to see if the werewolf looked any different in some sort of definition. And I will get into my thoughts on the werewolf in some depth. The werewolf, if I was from Jersey, as we discussed a few weeks ago.
Gut reaction, which did you prefer? The absolutely shocking, borderline unwatchable VHS that you've got, or crystal clear HD full Dolby Technicolor magic?
I enjoyed watching it on VHS because it's very rare that I get to watch a film that I've never seen on VHS. So that was a fun vibe for me. And I think getting to watch Corey Haim in VHS quality, it's always a hoot.
Yeah, why is that?
Just because he's a VHS guy, right? He had a fairly short career.
Yeah.
That spanned basically the VHS age, and then he disappeared.
Yeah, what's
celebrity
his
rehab?
What's his deal? He was Lost Boys and all that crap and whatever else. Why did he vanish?
Drugs.
Oh, that didn't stop everyone else.
It didn't.
Too much.
Yeah, too much. They didn't stop Gary Busey.
Hell no.
I don't know if I'm going to leave this in, but I wonder how much cocaine Gary Busey gave to Corey Haim in the making of this movie.
Why would you cut that out? It's ripe for speculation. I would never speculate, Jamie, and I think, frankly, you're out of line for even bringing it up.
Okay, I'll release the Russo cut one day.
I don't give a fuck about Corey Haim. Gonna go out there and say it. Sorry, everyone. What is it? Do people call him the fucking dumb dicks Corey Feldman? What's it? I just don't know the guy. What's his problem?
They were the Cories. They were a package deal for a while.
Yeah, for what, 1 year?
I think a couple of years. They made a bunch of films together. They made, obviously, Lost Boys. They did Dream a Little Dream. They did License to Drive.
Who is Team Haim? That's what I want to know. If you are picking Corey Haim over Corey Feldman, hit us up at FT Horror Show on socials and be prepared to be schooled.
I run the socials and I won't school you because I don't care.
No, of course.
I don't have a horse in the Corey race.
Really? Not at all? Well, one of them's a fucking dead horse, so you'd be losing if you pick
Yeah,
that
and the other one, what's the alive one up to? Fucking ruining everything that he's ever done.
What, Feldo?
Yeah, he's smashing every little nugget of goodwill by going on stage every night, doing his little fucking Michael Jackson tribute show, and pretending to play guitar while someone behind the stage rips a solo. Like,
Dude, he's killing it. What are you talking about?
he is not killing it.
Feldman to the max, 100%. Anyway, Corey
All of-
Feldman,
all of
sadly,
this is
not present in Silver Bullet. Probably
Corey
turned it
Feldman,
down.
sadly, not dead.
Mean. What? Do you think everything that Corey Haim's he's in because they wanted Feldman but couldn't get him?
No, because 90% of the time, he's right there with them.
Good point. The Cories. Wow. Okay, so listen, I think I might have seen Silver Bullet before. Don't remember. Also think I might have read it. Don't remember. It's not a property that stuck in terms of my lifelong enjoyment of Stephen King.
Cycle of the Werewolf is not Stephen King's best.
I wouldn't necessarily even put it in the top 70%.
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy because it's, like I said, because it deals with classic monsters and it contains illustrations from another legend. So, like, that's what makes it noteworthy to me.
Well and truly, I'm imagining a work of Coke, booze, general mayhem, fuel. Is it that era, King?
Yeah, it's early 80s. He wrote it, or it was published in 1983. So he's peak.
He's peak.
Peak.
We don't get clean King until, I mean, on record, the late 80s, right? So it's probably safe to say he's deep in binge territory here. And the dialogue says it all.
Oh, yeah,
I think
it's worth that we haven't mentioned this, but the screenplay is also written by Stephen King.
Yeah. Really close to the period that the book was at least released, right? We got a 2-year gap, potentially?
Yeah, there was a screenplay that was written originally by the initial director that they brought on, Don Coscarelli, who we know from Phantasm. John dies at the end. We love Don Coscarelli. He did the Beastmaster. He was riding high off the Beastmaster when Dino De Laurentiis asked him to direct this. There was some behind-the-scenes fuckery, but basically he co-wrote the script with a different guy, and then they brought Stephen King in to do a polish. Don Coscarelli loved Stephen King's notes, the Stephen King's editions, but Dino De Laurentiis hated them.
What do you think about Dino? Holy shit, does this guy suck?
I mean, he might suck, but he's responsible somewhat for basically every film that's good.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Dino put up the money for Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Dino did, 6 King adaptations, some of the best ones.
You think some of the best ones? Yeah, I suppose.
He gave Stephen King a shot at directing.
He's
Maximum
everywhere.
Overdrive. Like,
yeah, fuck me. Yeah, I mean, he has a million fingers, and they're in a trillion pies. I just find the guy slightly, he just makes me uneasy. How's he everywhere? What's his secret? What's he up to?
He's just got loads of money.
Not anymore. Dead.
Well
so, Silver Bullet. We've established the core facts. The key premise is down. We know where we stand. It's a King property, but it's not a great one. It's set in the town of Tarker's Mills, which is Castle Rock, Chester's Mill, Derry adjacent.
Yeah.
It's peak Coke King.
So Don Coscarelli did the script. Stephen King did a pass on it.
Right.
Dino De Laurentiis decided that he hated the pass that Stephen King did. And Don Coscarelli was like, well, this is a shit situation, so I'm just going to quit.
Toxic.
Like, I don't want to be in the middle of, like, this fucking bum fight where we've got to translate everything into Italian just so this guy can read it.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
What a mess.
So Don Coscarelli leaves. They hire this other director, Daniel Attias, who's directed no movies and, well, has directed one movie in his life, and it's Silver Bullet. He directed a bunch of other stuff, Second Unit, TV stuff, whatever.
Good TV.
Good TV. Yeah, he's a decent TV director.
Mm.
No signature style to speak of,
Yeah.
and therefore makes a good sort of pop in and shoot an episode guy.
Yeah.
After Don Coscarelli leaves, they just bring Stephen King on to write the script, but a bunch of stuff that made it into the final movie was in the draft that was written by Don Coscarelli,
Right.
including like the mist stuff and a bunch of the stuff that was like manufactured in order for them to not have to show too much wolf.
Yeah, which good. It's all of that happens in a really quick period of time. And I guess my biggest question is, why this property? Why did Stephen King release a not particularly big or exciting novella about werewolves that caused a Hollywood scramble? What's the deal? He was putting out tons at this point in his life, and yes, a lot of it got made into movies. But this feels like a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I think like it was King fever, wasn't it? In the early 80s. Everything he touched turned to gold. He was, Stephen King Midas.
He was selling like the clappers. I guess anything he wrote, people thought that could be a massive movie, despite there having been no massive movies come out of him yet.
People didn't know what was going to take off King-wise. So everything was all about just getting in on the ground floor, right?
Yeah. Do you think the movie feels rushed as a result?
Yeah, I think they do some really fundamental things that make it not as good as it could be. And I'll get into those. Should we drop a synopsis and then take a break?
Yeah, I thought you were going to skip it. I thought you were just raging ahead.
Absolutely not.
Okay, all right. I believe in you.
So from the back of my video box, Tarker's Mill, quaint, quiet, small town America, where people are born and die in the same house. Then, one year in May, it began. And every month after that, when the moon was full, it happened again. Horrors of the night, appalling carnage committed in the witching hours of darkness. Nobody knew who or what was responsible. Then, a tenacious young crippled boy stumbled... Did he stumble? Then a tenacious young crippled boy stumbled on the blood-chilling truth of what menaced the community, a truth far closer to the heart of the community than anyone would have thought possible. Silver Bullet.
Interesting. Also, not technically accurate, is it? Doesn't the movie take place over a really short period of time? And that was like every month.
Yeah,
a year or something.
That's because I guess nobody told the person who wrote the back of the box that they changed the book for the movie.
Interesting. Another slick production move from the team that brought you everything that sucks. Okay, so that's a good snops.
Yeah. I would again like to point out that you said the team that brought you everything that sucks, and they literally made Evil Dead 2.
I mean, sure. De Laurentiis, though, don't trust the guy. He ponied up the cash, sure.
Well, what? Yeah. Isn't that... It's a shrewd move.
I don't know. Read the book about how it happened and tell me it was a shrewd move. I think the guy lucked into it.
I think he's a shrewd guy. A couple of other movies that Dino De Laurentiis has produced, right?
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I'm so ready. I'm already looking at a list.
Blue Velvet, Manhunter, Raw Deal, Halloween 3, Amityville 2, Conan the Barbarian, Halloween 2.
Halloween 2?
Yeah.
I knew that was a Dino jam.
3 Days of the Condor, Death Wish. Come on now, Serpico.
Like Suckpico.
Whoa there.
Sorry, there's like 2 good movies in that list. I apologize for knocking Dino. I just don't like the guy.
Which are the 2 good movies?
I don't know what the 2 good movies are. I guess Evil Dead and Conan the Barbarian. I don't know.
Death Wish is amazing. Serpico is amazing. Manhunter is amazing. Halloween 2 is fine.
I thought you liked Halloween. Oh no, you like Halloween 3.
Yeah. Blue Velvet, amazing. King Kong Lives, pretty good. Sometimes they come back.
A low amazement threshold these days, Jamie.
Wait, so you're saying that Blue Velvet and Manhunter aren't amazing?
I wouldn't go amazing, no. I think they're fine.
I think they are 2 of the greatest movies ever made.
Really? Blue Velvet?
Yeah. Blue Velvet is my favourite David Lynch movie.
Why?
Because it's fucking great.
What about it?
Everything.
I
Love.
don't think I get it.
I love Dennis Hopper. I love Dean Stockwell. They're giving their all-time best in those movies. In that movie,
Do you like Wild at Heart?
I do like Wild at Heart. I like Wild at Heart a lot.
Wild at Heart is a fucking absolute banger. What would you rather watch, Blue Velvet or Wild at Heart?
Blue Velvet. Wild at Heart to me doesn't feel like a Lynch movie, apart from like the Crispin Glover "I'm making my lunch" scene. It's too linear. It's not out there enough. It's not. It feels like David Lynch trying to capture the Coens, and that doesn't work for me.
You want it to be more, I don't know what the word is. Bit more scattershot, bit more all over the place. I mean, it's fucking disturbing. I find it creepy.
Anyway, about this break, let's go for that.
Yeah, let's break.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Okay, I'm back, Sam. Are you back?
Oh, totally. But I've been back so long. I'm just sitting here waiting for you.
Still celebrating 20 years of Dreaming and Scheming this year, Sam. Red Scare Industries. The compilation is still out there. You can still buy it. You can still listen to it on socials.
I'm over it. Too long. Don't celebrate for a whole year, you dicks.
Some of the festivities are over.
Yeah.
But I reckon probably several Red Scare bands are playing at Fest.
Oh, loads of Red Scare bands are playing at Fest. And you've got the benefit of the fact that they're always fucking on tour. So get over to redscare.net, take a look at who's coming through your town, and bar your windows and lock your doors because they're all marauding psychopaths. You've also got the option to follow lots of Red Scare bands on social media and buy shit at redscare.net if you're that way inclined. If not, hit the streaming platforms for the 20-year anniversary comp if you haven't already. There's a million things you can do.
It's a great comp. They're a good label. I tried to teach myself Stuff for Little Children Come Unto Me by Brendan Kelly earlier today. And the guitar.
Oh, excellent. How'd it go?
It went okay. It's not the hardest song in the world, but the strumming pattern is weird.
Yeah, Brendan does a lot of interesting strumming stuff. I think because he grew up so ska, a lot of his strumming patterns are actually kind of fundamentally ska, played by a bass player, which is really interesting. He also has like a real kind of shovel-handed, heavy strumming pattern that's very steady, always in time, difficult to ape and emulate, makes for hard covering. But if you, like Jamie, want to learn how, figure it out.
Yeah.
Go on the internet.
Go on the internet. Listen to the song on repeat 5 times to give Brendan that sweet.
What it took? Holy cow!
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to it. I listen to it basically every day.
Nice.
I think that Brendan Kelly and the Wandering Birds album, along with not on Red Scare, sorry, Dream Homes by Dear Landlord, they're my 2 most listened to records. I listen to them at least 3 times a week.
Nice. I think that song is the kind of thing that Danzig would write if he was being honest and stopped being such a pretentious prick.
Yeah, it's the best song about murdering children and fucking homeless people.
It's up there, top 5, I would say.
Anyway, enough about this. Let's talk about Silver Bullet, Sam.
Yeah,
You're on a deadline, and we've talked so much shit already.
Listen, what's your top line feelings about this movie? You've watched it fucking twice in the space of 24 hours on 2 different formats. You've read the book. You've looked at the pictures. You've done your research. You've dug deep. You love werewolves. Where does this sit for you? Because I have my grave concerns that potentially it doesn't do werewolves the best service.
It's fine, isn't it?
You think it's fine?
Yeah, it's basically fine. Like,
yeah.
It does a bunch of things really well that I really enjoyed. I think it really suffers from not doing the over the course of a year thing.
That would make so much more sense, wouldn't it?
It's, yeah. Instead of like this bit of random dialogue where it's like, oh, maybe werewolves don't need to have a full moon. Maybe they could just be werewolves whenever they want and they just get more.
Maybe sometimes they're wolfier than other times.
Like, what the fuck? Just like, wouldn't it be much cooler just to see it happen over the course of a year? Dress the set in snow for a bit. Like, I understand that has some budgetary like implications. Do you know what? Fucking deal with it, Dino. You've got all the money in the world.
They
Can't take it with
spunked it
you.
on, too
And you
much
haven't.
coke. They could have done the snow scenes with coke, is my theory, because this movie was $7 million and it looks like it was $75. Where did that money go? Nobody's paying Gary Busey big bucks at this point, surely.
Busey was pretty big, early 80s.
He doesn't look particularly well in this film.
No, he really doesn't. I tried to do some digging into like what was happening in his life around this point.
Mm.
But like, this is 2 years before his big accident that smashed his skull to smithereens.
Yeah.
And sent him on a path of insanity.
Yeah, just a brain-injured guy going around spouting off shit. It's a sad tale.
It is. The series of celebrity rehab that he was on with Tom Sizemore is just about the bleakest television I've ever watched in my life, and I could not look away.
And you've seen Cycle of the Werewolf.
I think Corey Haim is really good in this.
We need, if you're going to talk about Corey Haim, we need to address the fucking wheelchair situation, because holy shit, you must have seen that coming a mile off, right? You knew it was going to be what it is. It's spoiler alert, people. It's a motorized wheelchair that goes really fast.
Yeah, it goes as fast as basically any car on the road.
Yep, and then later on, even faster when it basically becomes a motorbike. It's so Stephen King, it hurts. Talk me through your feelings about this wheelchair.
I mean, it's not in the book. I mean, there is a wheelchair in the book, but it's a normal, run-of-the-mill, regular 2 wheels and 2 handles wheelchair.
So why, my first question, did the filmmakers, including Stephen King, decide to turn this into a rocket car? What is happening?
Well, I think maybe they were trying to justify calling it Silver Bullet without it being really on the nose. Do you know what I mean? And so
it's such a stretch.
It is a stretch. I mean, the whole movie is a stretch.
Yeah, and therein is the rub. I think if you let this shit stretch, you're going to be fine. If you start picking nits, just don't even bother watching it, would be my advice. I think if you can just kick back and let this one glide on in you like a cold can of that Rocky Mountain Silver Bullet, you'll be fine.
There's no way that Terry O'Quinn as the sheriff is letting Corey Haim drive around as a 13-year-old kid in his motorized hog wheelchair on the roads at all hours of day and night. There's no way that he's letting that happen.
No, except he does. And that's what happens in the film. This kid is like 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks it's weird. It is either, and I'm undecided, the fundamental problem with the movie that causes everything to be completely undermined and completely farcical, or the complete stroke of genius that puts you in the place where you believe everything else that follows, that makes it possible for you to access that magical hinterland in Stephen King's work where children and childlike storytelling and fantasy meet the scariest shit on earth completely seamlessly. I can't tell which it is, but it's probably one or the other.
I mean, I think that it exists in order to show that the little girl, Jane, is right, and everybody loves Marty and lets him get away with everything because he's a paraplegic.
He's cruising around. He's in a wheelchair that goes faster than a car. And if you can get on board with that from the very beginning, safe hands. If not, rat roll.
Yeah, but I do think, like I say, that Corey Haim's performance is good. It's probably the best performance he's ever given. Like he's no River Phoenix.
No
but
one.
Like
in
this, he manages to find something, and maybe it's because the people that are surrounding him are fucking terrible.
I think I agree. I bet it's really hard for a lot of people to get on board with this movie because I look at it and I see a string of really interesting character actors that I would basically watch in anything. But some people are looking at this and they're like, oh, fucking Gary Busey, Corey Haim, Everett McGill, Terry O'Quinn, oh my God, Kent Broadhurst and Lawrence Tierney, and they're starting to cry. And they do not want to watch it, and you cannot force them. Whereas I'm sort of perversely excited about that weird chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, I love Terry O'Quinn, and I will watch him in anything.
I'd watch him take a fucking dump.
Yeah, I mean,
think
I'd love
he's
to.
great.
And obviously, we've talked about Everett McGill, and we're big fans of his work in The People Under the Stairs, obviously. You especially, you love it.
No, that film can completely fuck off. However, love him in loads of other stuff and think he's one of the most handsome men on earth.
There's a moment in this where I have to wonder if Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, when they were conceptualizing and writing the comic book Preacher, didn't literally look at Everett McGill and go, he is the basis for this character.
Yeah, I could see that. He does give a pretty strong Preacher, spoiler alert, werewolf performance in this. I think Everett McGill's good. I think it would be really unfair to say that Gary Busey isn't really acting his ass off in this. I think he's trying really fucking hard. His performance doesn't hit the whole way through, or really at all, but you can tell he's throwing himself into this role. A lot of other guys would have just been like, fuck me, okay, I'm the drunk uncle. I gotta fucking kill a werewolf. I got this dumb dick kid in a wheelchair. What the fuck? But he just pumps it.
He does pump it. It doesn't work. Like, it's objectively bad.
It's trying to be nice. But why is it's fucking jank. It's weird because it should work. It's a guy who's fully magnetic at this point in his life, who's vivacious and exciting and powerful on screen, pushing really hard. Maybe too hard, dunno. But there's something off kilter about it. He feels like he's, when nowadays people aren't acting with other people at all and they're in front of a massive screen and nothing's really there. He feels a bit like that. It feels like he's on another planet.
Yeah, I think the issue here is that the director, Daniel Attias, isn't very good at getting performances out of people.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think like that, it's his first movie.
Yeah.
He's done a bunch of like second unit stuff. So like he's not, second unit is mainly like B-roll and action footage. Yeah. So he's not maybe necessarily used to pulling performances out of people. He's used to directing stuntmen. Yeah. That doesn't bode particularly well when you're trying to make, I think like fundamentally at its core, this movie is about accepting your challenges in life in order to overcome them.
Right.
Which is why Marty, Corey Haim's character, is the only one who can get over things, even though he's in a wheelchair, because everybody else is just like trying to hide from it. And that's like the primary antagonist. But like, if you think about this was what, 2 years before Lethal Weapon. Mm-hmm. Like, this is after Carney. It's after the Buddy Holly movie. Like, these are all movies where people have managed to get actual performances out of Gary Busey.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't get one. Do you know what else doesn't get one? The fucking Gingerdead Man doesn't get one.
Shock horror. Here's an interesting slant. I think maybe acting with Corey Haim is really hard. Maybe generally, but definitely for Gary Busey. I don't think Gary Busey walks on set and is like, I can act with kids really well and easily. Yeah, and I think he turns to his director who's like, I don't know, dude, my first movie. I just like throw shit around and tell people what to do who don't even make it into the film. And everyone's like, oh, fuck, I guess I'll figure it out myself. That's kind of how I picture this. I think there's a lot of challenges here that you obviously don't see as like a casual viewer. But when you start digging into it, I bet that was hard work. And Gary Busey, famously a bit of a live wire, bit of a I'll do whatever I want kind of guy. So without, like you said, a more seasoned director kind of steering him a little bit, maybe he was straight into fucking full-on buttered sausage straight away.
Yeah, I think like there are some people in here that are giving it beans and kind of getting somewhere with it. Terry O'Quinn is doing pretty well, I think. Yeah. Kent Broadhurst is, like, I don't know what movie he's in, but I love that movie. Like his performance is completely unhinged and insane and amazing.
Yeah, he's just very old Crispin Glover in this. Big fan, huge fan. It's bizarre that the chemistry is so close to working, but just not quite. You've got a lot of pedigree. You've got a lot of actors who like to take big swings. And again, the movie does loads of stuff really well. That opening scene is oh my God, that would pin me in my seat if I was, watching it in the cinema and I knew nothing about it in advance or whatever. The beheading and the train tracks and all that stuff. Absolutely pinpoint nostalgic 80s magic for you right there. And a few other bits like that throughout, but nothing consistent enough to really make you go, fucking hell, this is like Pet Sematary.
One of the things that I hate about the movie the most is the really, really unnecessary Stephen King grown up looking back on a time in their life narration. Like, we get it. You can do that. But like, what value is it bringing here?
That's not even the main problem with narration for me. The narration, I forgot existed at one point because there's like a 40-minute gap where there isn't any, and then this female voice pops up and is like, that was when and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Oh, there's a narrator. Now I remember. Oh, and it's the sister. So again, basically pointless. The sister, I mean, everyone survives. Why is the sister the narrator? I don't get it. The central thing that I think keeps the movie chugging is when it finally remembers that it's a childhood story. When it finally kind of cracks the really sort of tricky little gristly bit of figuring out who's telling this tale and why. Once you realize, okay, it's a quintessential Stephen King, not coming of age, I guess, but child perspective tale about terror. Then it clicks into a groove and it starts working a bit more.
That sort of child perspective bit, it facilitates the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Which is after Marty has fired a firework into the werewolf's eye.
Love that.
I mean, and that's, fairly cool. The werewolf, we'll talk about that in depth in its own little section because we need to talk about the werewolf. But when Jane is like going around trying to see who's only got one eye, that is like the part of the movie where we start feeling things, where you start feeling a bit uneasy. The shooting style in this movie is always pretty static. And it's only like those really like long static takes of people's faces, and like everybody looks suspicious and weird, and like we don't know if that's real or if that's like unreliable narrator, children's perspective thing, and you start to get a bit of like actual uneasy. It's way scarier than any werewolfy thing in the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're totally right. That's when King stuff works. I was watching the movie up until that point, but when that exact scene happened, I was really paying attention. And I thought, right, the rubber's hitting the road. We're going to be fine. It's going to be great. And that was partially true. Every time that happens, every time they stick with that consistency, it pays off.
It's hard to know if Everett McGill as Reverend Lowe is that sinister, or whether the perception of him has changed because the kids now know that he's the werewolf. So everything has a creepy shine to it. And I think that's an interesting exploration of like a child's perspective.
Yeah, everything's already scary enough. Everything's beyond you. You're not allowed to do anything except drive your wheelchair at 65 miles an hour down back roads, highways, and interstates. And all of a sudden, the preacher in your town might be a fucking werewolf. No adults are going to believe you. You're on your own. It's classic King.
Yeah.
So when we're playing in that playground, it's great fun. The classic trappings of King's both, fiction writing and screenwriting are there. The horrible dialogue, the totally forced and out of place, weird use of expressions, some Mainisms, all that stuff is there. And if you're a fan like I am, you just kind of let it happen. You're just sort of used to getting spanked. But I think for some people, that's a barrier.
Is there a problem that you have specifically with someone saying, are you going to make lemonade in your pants?
Yes, because I can only hear it in Stephen King's voice. And I know that's fucking, you're going to make lemonade in your pants? Like, it's so King it hurts. And that's fine. But some people will just leave when you start doing that, Steve.
What about the line, sometimes I think your mind got paralyzed along with your legs?
I actually love that line. And that's, again, peak King. I think that's superb.
I think
especially the way Boosie delivers it. My God, it's so bad.
Well, I think that line works because everybody else tiptoes around Marty apart from Uncle Red, Gary Busey. And it's sort of nice. And I think like that kind of rings true in real life, that like people that I know that say have developmental disabilities or physical maladies or whatever. Like they don't like to be pandered to.
Mm.
So, they maybe also don't like to be mocked. Maybe.
Like Gary Busey.
But yeah, by this wild-eyed coke fiend.
I buy the relationship. I actually do buy, despite the distinct lack of chemistry and the bizarre circumstances. I actually kind of buy Boosie and Hayne later on in the movie. I mean, that includes the whole family dynamic too, and I think everyone does a pretty decent job in the family in terms of putting that across. Robin Groves, pretty good. The movie suffers a bit from a sort of fits and starts pacing, I think. You're not sort of right now we're rolling, because 2 seconds later you are not rolling. You're a grinding halt.
It's because we get these like pretty nifty werewolf scenes where, similar to Dog Soldiers that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, like the werewolf is always obscured, shown Jaws style. Obviously, Daniel Latias works with Steven Spielberg a lot, so he brought that specifically. He was like, I want to do it Jaws style. I want to make it so we don't show the werewolf as much as possible. And, thank fucking God for that. Because the movie would suck if we got big swinging werewolf straight away. So, but you get these like really brisk scenes of werewolves, and then we're instantly in a long family drama scene, and then the connective tissue doesn't work. Like it feels jarring, and not in a fun or interesting way. Like we're juxtaposing something. It's like, okay, you've had your court-appointed 3 minutes of gore. Now you have to enjoy some story. Like,
yeah, and that works in a novella. Absolutely,
Yeah.
That's basically how a novella works. But in a movie, again, like I think this could have been a made-for-TV movie quite happily,
Yeah.
and you could have taken a hit on your top-billed cast and had some sort of lower-level goons, and it would have been, probably better. But we have this movie to live with instead, so we have to make the best of it, Jamie. And to do that, we need to talk about the werewolf.
when you see it in all its glory, fucking sucks.
Okay.
It looks
What makes
like
it suck?
it looks like a weird man in a bear suit.
Yeah.
Do you know
I
that bit in
think
Super
the
Troopers at
werewolf's
the end
fine.
where the guy is pretending to fuck a bear to like
Right. Good reference.
it looks like that. Like I think it's mostly fine when you see it in flurries and in the fog and like you see an arm or whatever, but like the big moment of like, oh look, it's the werewolf is really hampered by the fact that it looks like ass to me. I mean, it looks super duper like a guy in a suit. And
Right.
the reason that it looks like a guy in a suit is because it's Everett McGill in a suit.
Yeah.
And like
It looks a lot like Everett McGill in a suit.
so they don't want to spend 15 hours with Everett McGill in makeup making it look perfect.
No.
They don't have that kind of, even if Everett McGill at this point was getting paid to scale,
Yeah.
like that's a shitload of money for a production like this.
Yeah.
Like, which is why you hire Shemp number 15 or whatever to do this sort of thing, and you don't put one of your big name actors in the suit. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe they were going for like a method thing, like to fully embody the priest, he has to also fully be the wolf.
Like that would make sense if Everett McGill had or if they established Everett McGill as having a specific type of movement that you could you could follow through when he becomes a werewolf. But in this movie, he doesn't. He's just a big dude and he's a priest. Like, whatever. So you think you like the look of the werewolf? You think I'm wrong?
No, I do not think you're wrong at all. And I can't say I like it, but it totally got a pass for me. And I think that's because my bar for what is a good werewolf is astonishingly low. I just haven't seen any good ones, really. So I was like, there it is, werewolf, cool. And then it gets shot in the eye with a firework, and I thought, that's pretty funny. So the werewolf was more of a comedy violence creature character than I think King intended it to be in this film for me. And I thought that was fine.
I'll tell you what I do love werewolf-wise.
If you say him using the baseball bat as a weapon, I'm leaving.
Absolutely not. Why would a werewolf beat a guy with a baseball bat? That is the dumbest thing I've seen in a movie. The thing that I like, and it's early in the movie and it's before we know that Everett McGill is a werewolf, is the dream sequence where the entire congregation all turn into werewolves, including the organist, who's like slamming on the
Still
organ.
playing. Rolf.
$7 million budget. That's where it went. That one scene.
Yeah.
We've got 70 extras, all in werewolf makeup,
Mm.
all in like differing types of werewolf makeup as well. There's like a Lon Chaney Jr. guy. There's like a Werewolf in London guy. Like there's all of them.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And some really good ones.
Yeah, I think it looks amazing. And like the idea that
it's all fair game because it's a dream as well. You can have every werewolf that ever existed in there. It's great.
some of these extras or background actors or whatever are not actors by trade, and you can tell that by the way that they're sort of mugging and gurning in a really weird way.
Like looking at their own paws and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's fine. I think it's a cool conceit to be able to be like, look, here are 50 werewolves all in one scene. When are you ever going to see that ever again?
Yeah, I can't say I've seen it before. And it does bring in an element of horror that is less funny than the rest of the horror in the movie. Since the beheading, we don't have a lot of genuine horror up until that point. Some of the swamp stuff I think is creepy, but then it's ruined by the baseball bat. But yeah, safe to say, I don't think this is a scary werewolf necessarily. I like the tight shots on the eyes. I think those are pretty excellent. There's something about those eyes that feels still kind of semi-human, very feral, but pretty clever in terms of makeup. And I like that we return to that shot a few times. That gives me a good little chill. But that's about it.
There are kill scenes where the werewolf attacks people, but he doesn't kill them by being a werewolf.
Yeah.
Like when Terry O'Quinn gets bashed to bits with a baseball bat.
Mm.
And when the guy gets pulled through the floor and just gets like stabbed through the chest with a stake.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Like,
I quite like that though. I did like the actual that moment. Like not in the bigger picture, but I enjoyed it happening.
Yeah, like those are cool. And like the amount of gore that you get when, say, Terry O'Quinn gets bashed in with a baseball bat. It's probably way gorier than if he got attacked by a werewolf.
Yeah, it feels such a weird choice.
It's
bizarre.
Like, I know that we're establishing that it's the baseball bat from before, which they've established 1,000 times already.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, it's so weird. It's just a weird choice to have the werewolf not be a werewolf.
Is it Stephen King's worst baseball bat? That's my big question for you. Is it worse than Old Huckleberry or whatever the fuck it is in the... Oh, no, wait, that's in Halloween. What am I talking about? That's not Stephen King. I just have it in my head that anything bad must be Stephen King. Yeah, so the baseball bat, rough hang.
Like, it's fun and it's gory and it's fun to watch Terry O'Quinn in that scene. But
yeah,
if you're a werewolf and you have to beat people with a baseball bat, then you should maybe get some werewolf therapy or something, because you're not...
Get werewolf lessons.
Yeah, you're not doing it right.
He's new to it. Give him cut him some slack. My problem here is that I worry sometimes when I'm watching these movies, because I think to myself, why aren't you enjoying a werewolf with a baseball bat? That's hilarious. That's objectively funny. So pull the fucking stick out your ass and enjoy it. But there's something missing in the portrayal of that action here that makes it hit as either comedy or horror. It just sort of lands a bit flat in the middle, unfortunately.
It definitely does, because it's like, it's a funny concept executed without any sense of humor at all. But like,
Okay.
it's too good to be like, oh God, this is so silly and shit. It's funny. It's too good for that. Like, the moment lands, the violence feels real.
Yeah.
So you're not like, oh, well, no, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, this goes back to, you made the point that I just couldn't put my finger on when I was watching it. The connective tissue sucks, so the movie falls apart. And it's a fucking masterclass lesson in why that shit is so important and why it has to work, because without it, you just have these like spasmodic vignettes of sometimes funny, sometimes scary, always fairly poor moments with these like slightly interlocked but always falling apart characters that kind of culminates in a big showdown type scene, and that a movie doth not make. So
No.
it fucks the pony pretty hard on that front. But again, I found myself still watching the movie. It wasn't one that I wanted to turn off. I was still like, oh, maybe Boosie's going to fucking pull some shit here. Maybe Everett McGill's going to start doing something. And it does deliver a fairly satisfying werewolf arc in the end, I think. What about you?
Maybe Boosie's going to make one single solitary silver bullet just in case they only get one chance to shoot the werewolf. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is dumb. I'm going to preface everything from now on by saying, yes, dumb. But I enjoyed the scene. I thought it was quite funny going to this master craftsman. And that's pays some homage to real werewolf lore. You know, the first fucking werewolves were, what was it, like a crucifix blessed 3 times, melted down into a silver bullet, blah, blah, blah. It's, again, very King. But I like the interplay there in that scene. I thought that was fun.
Again, like that's the thing that I think maybe is also because it's being recounted as a story from a child's perspective. Obviously, there were no kids there in that scene, but like the idea that the guy is like, or a werewolf, and like he doesn't say it with like a little glint in his eye. He's saying it like he knows that there's a werewolf out there.
Yeah, you're totally right. Maybe this would be way better if it was potentially funnier and told with that openness. You know, if she was like, I wasn't there, but I think it went something like this. You know, you're getting into Mel Brooks territory, but it could be great. It could be really funny.
I think an interesting thing is that Daniel Attias wanted to make a family-friendly, like spooky, scary horror film for the family.
Oh, mission accomplished, I think, in that case.
Well, Dino De Laurentiis, he kept like basically forcing him to add gore in.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious in like a world where the director wants it to be one thing and the producer, the people behind it, the people with the money want it to be gorier. Like that is the absolute opposite.
Never heard of that in my life.
Only in the 80s is that thing happening.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that the werewolf costume is designed by Carlos Rambaldi, who designed
Alien?
He made the Alien suit, he made E.T., he made a bunch of suits. I mean, most notably, he made the Squiddy monster from Possession.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So a bit of connective tissue there into the overall, final transmissionness of it all. We talked a little bit on the Dog Soldiers episode a couple of weeks ago about transitions, about transformation scenes. What do you think of the transformation scene in this?
Absolute dog shit. Wow. I mean, you can't not watch it because it's happening right there and you have to just grab the arms of your chair and ride it out. It's like a guy's fist in a rubber Halloween mask slowly pushing forward a snout. Listen, it's composed of several cool moments, but they just leave too much in. It's not for me. It's not my favorite. What about you?
I mean, I completely agree. I think like interspersed with shots of Corey Haim and Gary Busey and Megan Follows all going, like they just stood there watching it happen, frozen to their seats. I think there is too much of it, and we discussed how like less is more with a werewolf transformation. Less is more, or be genuinely impressive.
Yeah.
The thing that impresses me is the de-transformation after he gets shot and he's
the
dead.
Shrinking, the like retraction of the claws. That stuff I thought was cool because it's normally underwhelming. Normally it's a stupid fade of some kind, or you know, there's always a cop out. Basically, it's like you've had your fun with the transformation. You don't get the fucking afterglow or whatever. But I did like that. I thought that was really fun, and it played really well into this idea of a family movie for me because you would want to linger there a little bit. That's kind of a catharsis, and it's the moment of victory in a way.
Yeah.
Would you put Salem's Lot, the movie, in a family-friendly Saturday night popcorn bucket, or would you say that's scarier?
I would maybe not show it to someone who is younger than 12.
It's a bit sexy, actually, isn't it? It's a bit of a fuck fest.
Yeah, I think it's too scary for someone who's, younger than 13, 12.
Oh, yeah, actually, now that I think of it, the kids, like, flying at the window, that's fucking chilling. Yeah, all right, good point. Forgot about that. I've got it in my head that a lot of these Stephen King films are borderline kid appropriate, I think, when most of them are not.
Yeah. If you were going to show a child, any child, a Stephen King movie, which is the one that you would pick?
You can't really do Pet Sematary, can you? Even though you really should. You got guys' brains falling out in the first couple of scenes.
Yeah.
Kids getting smashed by trucks. Achilles tendons being slashed. Okay, it's easier if I go. I can't think. I have to say.
Maybe if you go Pet Sematary, it's like, and this is why you don't play in the road.
Exactly. There's a lot of moral lessons for kids in these movies.
Fundamentally, the film feels like cliff notes of a book that has loads and loads of pages. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they all kind of do, don't they? Because that's exactly what happened.
But the book doesn't have loads and loads of pages. This
No.
is the easiest Stephen King book to adapt into a screenplay.
It's
Like,
totally the exception to the rule, right?
You had one job, literally Stephen King.
Yeah.
Adapt your own work and do it well. And you fucking slipped on the ice and impaled yourself on a spike. Like,
Nice.
Stupid. The werewolf looks like Station. That's what I think the werewolf looks like.
That is not fair. Come on. No. The guy did Alien. You gotta give him. He does not look like Station.
When
Also, Station, inexplicable nonsense. Like, I thought it was weird when I was a kid. I watched it as an adult and I was like, nah, that was just a thing they had. Nobody conceptualized that. That was another costume gone wrong.
I love Station. I love the idea that, like, we're thinking outside the box in terms of aliens, where, like, you know, an alien could be one part of a larger consciousness that exists separately and they come together when they need to. Like, I think that's a cool
but
idea.
It has to look like a fucking turd with lips. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, take it up with, I guess, Carlos Rambaldi. I bet he did do it. I don't know. But the werewolf in this looks like at the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, when stations come together to create Station, that's what the werewolf looks like.
I mean, is it that bad? Did you maybe, is that your VHS brain or your HD brain talking? The werewolf at times looks goofy, right? It has kind of a dumb goof to it. The snout is a bit too broad. The mouth doesn't behave in a wolf-like way enough for it to be menacing. It just looks goof troop. So, but my main problem here, as always with werewolves, monsters, any kind of creature feature, it's what you show and how you show it. And there's too much full-on, I'm a big wooden leering werewolf with limited mobility coming at you stuff in this movie. But that normally resonates with me on a B-movie level, where I'm like, look at that piece of crap. This is great. There is just something slightly off about this that doesn't quite hit that spot for me. I actually don't think the werewolf looks... I totally hear what you're saying vis-a-vis Station. Its face looks very Station, but it doesn't... I'm not like, oh, get this crap out of my face about this werewolf. There's enough variation in the admittedly bad transitions. You get enough wolfy action in eye shots, claws, general bits to keep you sustained. But yeah, there's something... listen, if you fuck up your script, sure. If you also wrote the novella, okay. If you fuck up getting Gary Busey to act, okay, fine. But if you in your werewolf movie, you fuck up your werewolf, yeah, you whoopsied it there, bud.
I completely agree. I think the werewolf is the weak link.
And in a werewolf movie,
that's not true. It's one of many weak links in a fucking string of sausages. Like, and you wouldn't lock your bike up with a string of sausages. So
no, gonna have to 100% agree with you there. What is it that stopped you being a movie critic, Jamie, out of interest? Because that's the kind of shit that I want to read.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm making a podcast, Sam, so I can talk about sausages.
Silver Bullet is a loosely linked string of sausages, and you wouldn't use a string of sausages to lock up your bike. Jamie Carruthers.
Yeah. Like, okay, let's just talk about the silver bullet, the actual bullet, not the fucking motorbike wheelchair.
Oh, there's such a huge part of me that thinks we need to talk about the wheelchair more, but I'm going to just let listeners... I'm not going to put them through it. Let's talk about the actual bullet. Go on.
So, why would you only get one?
He's only got enough silver for one?
It seems...
And it honestly, he hasn't got enough silver for one.
No, he doesn't.
It's all wrong.
And the guy's like, oh, this is my finest work.
Dude, what? You melted some shitty silver jewelry into a bullet.
Yeah.
Into a bullet head, and that's your best work. Oh, get another job.
And then, obviously, there's a whole bunch of fuckery because they only have one.
Yeah.
where they drop it, it falls down a grate, all of that nonsense.
How do they get it back again?
What's his name? Corey Feldman. Nope, Corey Haim
Yeah.
rams his arm through the grate and gets
Oh
it
yeah,
back.
I remember. Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like, his sister's like, "Is everyone okay?" And he's like, "I can't feel my legs," which
Great.
which is
Again.
amazing.
Absolutely brilliant. There's too much funny stuff for it not to be a funny movie, which again makes it Saturday night popcorn munching fun time, or does it?
I guess like Stephen King, I believe, like adheres to this, and so do I. Is that people are funny, even like in real life, people are just funny. So like, why wouldn't you be funny? It's like it's the reason why I hate Friends, right? Because Chandler's just cracking jokes all day, and his friends never laugh.
The friends, they never laugh.
Yeah, like why are you hanging around with this guy if you think he's so fucking patently unfunny? It's his whole personality is making the
I
jokes.
agree, people are funny, and I think Stephen King actually has a really acute sense of humor and an excellent grasp of what is and isn't funny. And yeah, sure, 99% of it doesn't age well, but in this, I think he's trying to pump a lot of pistons at the same time, and he's finding his feet as a writer, as a screenwriter, in terms of how do you scare an audience, how do you honor the source material that you wrote, and how do you make people laugh? And that's not parceled out in equal enough measures to make a comedy horror, but it does make a completely bang average horror movie much more fun, I think.
Yeah.
I can't really fault the comedy in this, to be honest, and normally it's the first thing I fucking roll my eyes at. So
yeah, there's a bit
weird
quite,
win.
There's a bit quite early on where a character is like, maybe you shouldn't have told that Smokey Bear from the FBI to fuck off, and Terry O'Quinn's like, well, I waited for him to hang up first. Like that's funny. Like that's characters being funny and like in a sort of true to life way.
Yeah. Even just the little things that we know Stephen King does really well, like the guy watching the wrestling. The things he's saying are just funny, and you know he's going to die, and it sets it up really nicely. The fact that anyone who's talking in that way in a Stephen King book or movie is about to die, and I like that. I like that tells us what we're in for.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he's a bad guy because he says that we should execute all cripples, but
yeah, there is that. Yeah.
So, but whatever. All right, Sam. I'm all silver bulleted out. Let's go for a break and come back and wrap up.
All right, let's go.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
Oh, Jamie, hi. You're back.
I'm back, locked and loaded, cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
Here he is. Tell me everything.
Okay, well, first things first, Sam. Not you, Sam Russo, but you, dear listener, should make your way over to TikTok or Instagram or both and make sure you follow at FT Horror Show. On our social media, I share loads of stuff, particularly on TikTok. You get trailers, you get clips from upcoming episodes. On Instagram, you get the same clips from upcoming episodes, and you get other stuff as well. Photos of Sam making stupid faces while we record.
Yeah, sorry about that. If you don't follow us on social media, you are a chud, because Jamie put some amazing stuff on there. It's like a little treasure trove. Do you know what? It's the basement of your local video store. It's Jamie down there pulling out fun stuff, luring you in and showing it to you. I think it's you're really missing out if you don't follow us on social media. And while you're there, holy crap, tapping away with those little thumbs of yours, rate and review the podcast. Do your worst. We are ready to receive your ire.
Yeah, I think also while you're doing that, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you've got automatic downloads clicked. So this sluices down the pipe at you first thing Monday morning every week, and you don't miss any of the insightful, engaging criticism about Silver Bullet or similar.
Yeah, just be more organized, guy. Just, click those things, make those things, get it in your calendar, set aside some you time, brew a coffee, sit down, have a little listen.
Have a listen. Yeah. And then once you've had a listen, make sure to tell your friends. Word of mouth is probably the best way of you helping us get out there. And you want to help us, because if you don't, I'll shoot you with a silver bullet.
Yep. Your mouth is our mouth.
Yeah. From your lips to God's butthole. Let's wrap up, Sam. I have many thoughts about this film. It's disjointed. It's ugly in a lot of places. It's not well shot. There are times when the badness of the shooting works for the movie. Like we said, in those sort of long, protracted, static shots of people's faces when we're looking for eye patches.
Yeah.
The music is bad. The performances are pretty bad. People having fun. Terry O'Quinn, Kent Broadhurst, but like those are nuggets in I want to say a sea of shit. The
This is
movie's
your most damning review yet.
well, the movie somehow comes together and isn't awful, but like there's a lot of negativity available to us to find if we're looking for it.
If you want to dwell on it, yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think if you're a Stephen King completist, you should probably have seen it already. If you're a werewolf completist, you may not have seen it. I think it's good enough. And do you know what they say, Sam? The Goonies are good enough. So,
Wow, you're digging so deep into trying to say something positive about this movie that you will quote Goonies, one of your least favorite movies.
yeah, I give this 36 extras in werewolf garb out of 70.
That's great. That's higher than I thought you were going to go.
What about you, Sam? Lay it on me. What do you think? What are your final thoughts?
I think this movie is a bang average Stephen King TV movie. I think on a Sunday afternoon, it will keep you watching. You can go and make a cup of tea and come back and not need to pause it, and that's fine. There's a place for that. I can't necessarily, same as you, Jamie, say I would recommend it to anyone. But yeah, if you're on a bit of a King binge or you just need some daytime viewing to soothe your storming hangover, then yeah, probably bang this on and maybe get a few laughs out of your hour and a half that you're recovering. I think I'm going to give this movie 1 silver bullet out of 2. It's fucking fine. Leave it alone.
Where are you getting the second silver bullet from? Because there's only one in the
Exactly.
movie. Oh no, there's technically 2 because there's the bullet and there's the fucking motorbike.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, there's 3 silver bullets in this movie.
Do you know what they
That wheelchair.
Why are we called the wheelchair silver bullet and the movie doesn't end with him ramming the wheelchair into the werewolf?
I know. That's why I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of talking about the fucking wheelchair, because while it is simultaneously one of the most ridiculous and egregious things to ever go onto a fucking cinema screen, it is also a huge deal and so ripe with like crazy possibilities and opportunities that are not fulfilled. But
Yeah.
I can't say that I wanted more of it, so I'm going to shut the fuck up.
It's
It honestly made me laugh out loud, the movie, so it can't be all that bad, right?
It's funny when it wants to be. It's sometimes funny when it doesn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still funny. I'm still laughing. So,
That's the 80s.
Yeah. So fair dues, Stephen King. Maybe cocaine suits you. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Would you recommend people read the novella, or is that just as bad as I just can't remember it?
The novella is completely fine and you can read it in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I said at the top, it has amazing artwork in it. It's a cool thing. And like the book does what the film should have done, which is that you get a chapter and that gives you 1 month of the year and it's a werewolf attack. You get the werewolf attack that's set in December, Christmas, and that's juxtaposed with whatever Marty's doing at Christmas. You get like a little glimpse into these people's lives, and that is just cool and more interesting. And then it all sort of leads up to the next year. And then I said at the beginning that this is a movie that's set on Halloween for the most part, but it's literally just one line of dialogue, which is like, if trick-or-treaters come, don't let any of them in.
Yeah.
And then it hard cuts to the middle of the night. So you don't even see a bat. There's no decorations. There's no trick-or-treaters. There's no kids in costumes.
Nope.
Nothing.
It's a Stephen King movie about werewolves set at Halloween, and they just didn't think to have any decorations or even a pumpkin or just a shot of a thing. Just skipped it completely. Skip Halloween. It's a Stephen King movie. What?
Yeah, it's insane because like Marty in his little wheelchair Why are we not dressing up as Evil Knievel? Give him a little Evil Knievel
Yeah.
outfit. Evil Knievel up his bike. Evil Knievel was big in the early 80s, right? Like, why are we not?
Yep, his parents pay a lot of lip service to loving their kid, but they did not dress him up as Evil Knievel on Halloween, and therefore they and this movie is in dereliction of its duty to entertain us,
Yeah.
unfortunately. However, rock on, Silver Bullet. What a wild ride.
Uncle Red is the only thing stopping me from calling social services on this movie.
He's the thing stopping you. Holy fuck.
Yeah, he gives the little kid beer. He
Fireworks?
gives him fireworks. He does little raps about the Yankees or whatever.
He gives him a wheelchair that goes 60 miles an hour
Well, yeah.
and lets him ride it unsupervised on the road.
Yeah.
Legend.
All right, that's enough, Sam. Let's end this.
All right. Good night, Silver Bullet.
Good night, Stephen King.